Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Ways of the Sith. Thank you so much for taking time to check out the channel. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ways of the Sith. So today is a video that I've been working on for quite some time, putting together my thoughts and theories on the Ahsoka series and why Thrawn is probably not going to be the heir to the Empire Thrawn that everybody's assuming that we're getting. If you're a fan of the current Thrawn novels, I'm going to be going over them. I'm going to be going over my thoughts and my theories about Ahsoka and how this show could play out. And I'm also going to dive into where I think the show is going to tie in down the line into the sequel trilogy. So let's get started and let's just get into this video. So I know everyone is excited for the appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and first I'm going to dive into why I don't think we're going to see the heir to the Empire story that everyone's expecting. If you're a fan of the current Timothy Zahn Thrawn novels, they paint a whole different picture than heir to the Empire. Under this new canon and continuality, Thrawn is actually a spy, in a way, for his own people. So he gets marauded on a planet by his own people as part of a plan to infiltrate the Empire. He has an adventure with Anakin Skywalker during the time of the Clone Wars. Meets Anakin, meets Padme, hears about Palpatine, hears about all these things going on that his people are not aware of. So what he does is he actually almost goes undercover and ends up being picked up by the Empire and taken in. And then that's how Thrawn's story actually starts. He gets brought to the Emperor, and Palpatine wants to know about these people and this whole unknown region that they can't chart or really know nothing about outside of the planets and the system that we know, from the established universe. So Thrawn, in a way, kind of talks his way into service because he mentions Anakin, and Anakin at the time, I guess, had told Palpatine about Thrawn. So Palpatine's well aware of who Thrawn is. Thrawn starts to put together two and two that Anakin and Vader are one of the same when they end up doing a mission. But during the whole course of this, Thrawn finds out that there's these people, which a lot of old Legends fans would know as the Yusong Vong. In current canon, they're known as the Grisks. And basically, they're very similar to the White Walkers in the fact that every civilization they take over kind of becomes part of their hive mind and under their control. So as time goes on, as they conquer more worlds, as they conquer more races and planets, it kind of becomes a bigger and bigger threat for the whole galaxy as a whole. And that's where Thrawn's loyalties lie, is protecting his people, the Chiss, from those Grisk invaders. And to do so, he infiltrates the Empire and works his way up to the rank of Grand Admiral. Now, when we see in Rebels, Thrawn doing the stuff that he's doing with Ezra and, hunting down the Phoenix crew and the Battle of Lothal, I personally feel like that's all part of his strategy, is keeping up appearances. Basically, what you come to find out in the Thrawn novels is that Thrawn was on his way after the Battle of Lothal was done. He was to go to Coruscant and see Palpatine, and Palpatine was not happy with him. Palpatine was basically at the end of his leash with Thrawn and was ready to kill Thrawn if Thrawn didn't reveal the information of where his people were. And so, knowing Thrawn and knowing how strategic he is and how everything's planned out, in my mind, I almost feel like the whole scene with him and Ezra is something that they planned out, and that him and Ezra being taken by the Purgils and being stuck out into the unknown regions is going to allow Thrawn and Ezra to get picked up by the Chiss Ascendancy, and that's where I think Ezra and Thrawn are. I think Ezra is going to be a very mixed character when we see him in Ahsoka. I don't think he's going to still be the naive, wide-eyed kid. I think he's going to be a little bit more grizzled. And I think he's going to be working side by side with Thrawn, because once he learns about the Grisk and learns about these Chiss children that are known as Skywalkers, which is kind of ironic, that are Force-sensitive children that don't have the capability of being trained. So once they're only past like 15, 16 years old, they start to lose their force abilities. And now with Ezra being there, this presents a whole new opportunity for Ezra to actually teach those kids how to use their force powers. So I'm assuming we're going to get kind of a swerve at the end of Ahsoka, and that she's going to find Thrawn, but she's not going to expect that Ezra's going to be working with him. And then that's how we'll kind of catapult into whatever's next going in after Ahsoka. Because, like I said, the Grisk is the main threat. It's also going to be cool to be able to explore some of the unknown regions, and it allows Filoni to really do whatever he wants. And to me, that's what I think is the biggest takeaway from this whole thing. They've been stuck in a rut with the Skywalker saga and the sequels and wanting to get away with that, from that whole saga, but haven't really found the way to. And in my personal opinion, I feel like the Rebels crew and Ahsoka and what they're going to do with Thrawn allows them to do that. It keeps all of these characters that we already know and love and established in a whole separate galaxy from the one that we know. And I think it allows them to flush out those characters and do whatever they want with them and really kind of tie things together after the Skywalker saga. Because we know from the end of the Skywalker saga that Rey is the only one left. So, and we know that Ahsoka was one of the Jedi that spoke to her during that final scene. So under my assumption, I think Ezra's still out there. I think Sabine's still out there. I think the Rebels crew is still out there. And Thrawn might even still be out there. But I have a feeling they're fighting another war that nobody really knows about, because it's in a whole nother part of the galaxy. And so they're saving the galaxy we know without people even really realizing that the galaxy is like under attack and being threatened by this outside force. So I think that's what's going to occupy them throughout the Skywalker saga, and then jumping back into after the sequel trilogy. I think that's where we'll see Rey and Ezra and Grogu perhaps, and those characters all kind of come together. So another character that becomes very interesting during this whole entire thing is Hera Syndulla and Kanan Jarrus's child, Jacen Syndulla. I thought it was very interesting that Filoni chose to spell Jacen the same way as Jacen Solo. We never got the Jacen Solo story because he wasn't a character that was around in the sequel trilogy. So personally, I feel like if you're looking for your next Sith Lord or your next villain or someone to put in that position for Rey and Ezra and them to actually go up against, I feel like Jacen Syndulla doing the whole Jacen Solo storyline with the Grisks and the war and everything, and him getting kind of pushed to the edge and becoming that new Sith Lord, I think that would be the perfect way to go going forward and really just open things up. Now you have a brand new villain. It's not Palpatine. It's not anybody connected to Palpatine. It's its own separate thing with this whole other threat and kind of somebody being stuck in the middle of like pushing themselves too far. You kind of go back over some of the Jedi Clone Wars comparisons of, the Jedi getting involved in the war kind of made them easier to manipulate, and it pushed them, and they did things that they normally wouldn't do because they were under dire stress. I feel like you could do that with Jacen Syndulla and just really take that character to a whole new level, and then you have your new villain now going forward for the saga. I also feel like with the resentment, hearing all about Ezra and spending his whole life basically looking for Ezra, I think that's really going to have a play on the kids' mentality. So it's going to be very, very interesting. So now to talk about Ahsoka, who is one of my favorite characters of all time. I personally grew up with Clone Wars and now Rebels and all these other things that we've seen throughout the years. So for me, Ahsoka's been the character I've really watched grow up and relate to on a personal level, just because we've explored so much of her story. And I feel like because in Rebels, we saw her go back to the point of the duel with Vader. There's a whole time gap that we don't know where Ahsoka was or what she was doing in between that time, before the Battle of Endor. So obviously we know way later that she's going to show up on Lothal and pick up Sabine, but I have a feeling that the things we saw in Mandalorian and the things we saw in Book of Boba Fett, those appearances, they're all going to be before she actually goes to get Sabine. I feel like that interaction with her and Luke, where Luke says, you know, will I ever see you again? I feel like that's the point where she was now going to get Sabine and they were going to get Ezra because she found where Thrawn was located in Mandalorian. So I think what we're going to see at the beginning of the Ahsoka series is probably that Vader duel all over again, which would be phenomenal. We do know that Hayden Christensen is involved in the show. We also are supposed to see kind of what if moments. Basically, through the world between worlds, it's been teased that we're going to see a different actress playing a younger version of Ahsoka, and we're almost going to see a what if, that if she was the one to go confront Anakin on Mustafar, and if she was the one to duel him, you know, it's kind of dealing with the psyche and the mindset of Ahsoka, wondering that she could do more and that if she did something, she would have changed everything. But the impression that I'm getting from a lot of the leaks is that Ahsoka's going to come to find out that no matter which decision she made, or, you know, which choice or which place she went to try to stop everything, she would have ended up in the same place overall. And I think that all ties back to the Rebels episode where her, Kanan, and Ezra are all in that temple on Lothal, and she's trying her hardest to speak to Master Yoda and find out stuff. And Yoda doesn't appear to her to the very end and just gives her a little nod. But during that whole sequence, she's kind of told then she's always where she's supposed to be. And it even flashes back to the end of the Clone Wars episode where you see, you know, Yoda kind of tell her that. So it's really, really cool. And I also think that episode plays such an importance because that's where Yoda shows himself to Ezra for the first time and tells Ezra that Ezra has a whole different path. And those are things that play in consistently. It's Yoda that tells him that a Jedi you may be, but you have a different path to get there. And I think that all ties into the Thrawn and the Chiss and everything that we're about to see. And then again, Kenobi. When Ezra meets Kenobi on Tatooine during the Maul duel, Kenobi tells him, you're not supposed to be here, Ezra Bridger. So Kenobi knows too, and so does Yoda, that Ezra's got his own mission and his own thing to do. And Ahsoka plays such an influential role in that because she's going to be the one that has to go find Ezra. And I feel like when they do, they're all going to band together with Thrawn and fight off the Grysk. And that's kind of going to be the sum of the parts of maybe not the whole Ahsoka series, because I feel like we probably won't see Thrawn and Ezra until the very, very end. But I feel like this is all world building and stuff that's going to be able to take them forward with the franchise. Like I said, I feel like these are the characters that they could go forward with and maybe circle back around to Rey down the line. But you have these characters that people know and love and established and can really flush them out more, where we don't know their fates. We don't know what's going to happen from this point on, other than we know at some point something's going to happen to Ahsoka, unfortunately. I really think that's the direction Filoni's going to go. And if he does, I feel like Filoni would be the perfect person then to step into that Kathleen Kennedy role if she is going to leave after Indiana Jones, which the rumors suggest. If Filoni can prove that he can do this and build out this whole new universe and part of the Star Wars universe, I feel like he's the perfect person to take that job and run Lucasfilm going forward for the next couple years. That's just my impression. Again, I don't want to confirm any of this. This is all just my theories and speculation based off the books and based off things that I've seen and read that are going on. But I personally feel like this would be the perfect way to kind of erase the bad taste we all have in our mouths after the sequel trilogy. And for me personally, I feel like that's the way to go. So this is already quite a very long video. I just want to thank you guys so much for taking time to stay with me and hearing me ramble and talk about these things. It's something that I love doing. Hopefully I'll be able to start doing more of these videos going forward because I do have a lot of theories and speculation about things. So if you enjoy it, please let me know in the comments. These videos do take quite a while to do simply because I got to find all the footage in which I'm referring to. This way you can see what I'm talking about. But if it's worth it, if the reward is good and you guys enjoy this, I will try to do more of these videos going forward. But thanks again for taking time to check this out. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, may the force be with you.
Be honored if you would join us.